Hey, what's up everybody? Landon with LMR.com. In this video, we're checking out this lift kit from LMR Products designed for the 1992 to 1996 OBS Bronco. The way this one came to fruition was that the Bronco here beside me, this is LMR's 1996 Eddie Bauer Bronco, Torador red, looks great. We've done some work to it up into this video, such as new headlights, grille. We've done some interior work, such as like freshening up the door panels and things like that. And we're kind of slowly progressing the Bronco as we can get to it. One of the other things on the list was a lift kit. We wanted to get away from the factory ride height and the 31-inch tire, raise it up a little bit and get a 33-inch tire underneath it on the factory wheel. So we went to the drawing boards, looked at some of the components we had on the site and kind of started piecing some stuff together, and that's what we have here. We're gonna run you through some of the components that this kit includes. Like I said, we wanted to build a kit that was kind of enthusiast-minded, or I like to refer to it as OEM plus. We didn't want it too high in the air. You know, we kind of wanted it the old Porgs and the Bears. We wanted it just right. Taking a closer look at the components, we are going to include the Rough Country coil spring, or raises the front 1.5 inches. As far as dampers go, these are going to be the Bilstein B6 4600 shocks for both front and rear. And me personally, I can geek out over this stuff, and I know a lot of you will as well. But the Bilstein B6 series shocks, I just love the light blue dust boot, and I love the golden yellow shock bodies. I just think this color combo, when you put it underneath a vehicle where there's grays and blacks and maybe some dirty browns, it just contrasts so well. And being that, you know, these particular shocks were on other Ford vehicles, you know, throughout the history of the company, to us, a simple shock like this was a must for this particular lift kit. On the rear shocks, you're going to reuse the hardware for both attaching locations, and then over here on the front shock, you'll reuse the hardware for the lower location, but Bilstein does include new washers, bushings, and retaining nuts for the upper attaching location. While we're still at the front of the Bronco, we're also going to include the alignment bushings. These will get installed into the knuckle, and they're very important for a lift kit because this is going to allow you to properly adjust the caster and the camber after you lift your Bronco. All right, so moving out back, we are going to include new U-bolts that will have washers and nylock nuts, and then the 1-inch spacer block. Whenever we were R&D in this kit and kind of figuring the things out, we originally put just the coil spring on the front, got the Bronco back on the ground, took it for a drive, and let the suspension settle in, and then we noticed, you know, just a slight lean from front to back. Now, we could have took this same coil spring, put it on a different Bronco, and we could have achieved perfect level. But due to the variances from vehicle to vehicle, we went ahead and included the 1-inch spacer block. We did install the 1-inch spacer block on this particular Bronco. Like I said, you know, because it had that, you know, kind of front to back lean, just looked goofy. So whenever you do that, always remember your pinion angle. I believe for this particular Bronco, we installed an 8-degree shim to get that pinion angle back within spec and where it needs to be. So you may be wondering, can I run a 33-inch tire? And yes, you can, but you will have to slightly trim this lower air dam or valence ever so slightly. If you take your time, you do it right, you kind of follow the contour of the front bumper, and then you'll never know that that piece has been modified. Now let's talk about the height. Like I said, went from a 31-inch tire now to a 33-inch tire, but for our before and after measurements, I did go from the center of the hub to the lip of the fender. That way the tire change wouldn't throw a variable in our equation. Before, that spec on the front here, driver's side, 19 3/4 inches, and then out back it was 22 inches. Once we got all the components on, put some miles on it, let the suspension settle in, the result was 21 1/4 inches in the front, 23 1/8 inch out back. Now you're probably thinking, well, that's a little bit more than what the advertised amount is, and you're right. Going back to variables and variances, I would expect, you know, maybe a 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch variance from Bronco to Bronco. So once you get your kit on and you're thinking, well, what the heck? You know, it's an 1/8 inch higher in the front and an 1/8 inch higher in the back, or whatever the scenario may be, you know that 1/8 inch in reality is minuscule, especially when you take a step back, you know, and you look at the vehicle from a side profile. That's pretty hard to notice, you know, to the naked eye. And then probably the final thing to talk about would be the ride quality. I've driven the Bronco down the road. You know, I didn't put just a ton of miles on it. I didn't take it off-road. I didn't do any of that. You know, I just went you know, through the neighborhood, you know, around town, you know, just did some casual driving, as I feel most of you that are buying this kit will do with your Bronco. To me, there was no difference in ride quality over a factory setup. Honestly, to me, I felt that it rode better. You could probably say that the components on the Bronco that we took off were probably aged, and there's some of that you can play into the outcome and kind of what I was feeling when I was driving the Bronco. So it's hard to totally explain it to you. You know, you just got to buy the kit, put it on, and sit back in the driver's seat, relax, and be like, man, this thing's solid. And I guarantee you that's what you're going to feel with this lift kit from LMR products. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Kind of a long-winded one today, but I like to talk, and I think y'all find value in what we're trying to do here and what we're trying to explain and offer for the 92 to 96 OBS Bronco community. So speaking of value, if you see it in what it is that we're due, please consider liking the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. And then until we see you in the next one for all things 1992 to 1996 Bronco, keep it right here with the Real Enthusiasts, LMR.com.